I thought our romantic getaway was just for us, but my girlfriend invited her friend without asking. Now our dream trip is in jeopardy. I, 27M, and my girlfriend, 26F, had been dreaming about this getaway for what feels like ages. It was meant to be our escape, just the two of us, a time to unwind and reconnect away from the chaos of our work lives. We've both been swamped lately, and this trip was our chance to hit pause and enjoy each other's company without the usual exhaustion that comes with our routines. I even picked up extra shifts at work to cover the costs and make this vacation special for her. Things took a turn a few days ago when she casually mentioned that she wanted to bring along a friend from work, 25F. This caught me completely off guard since we had never discussed bringing anyone else, and I was under the impression it would just be us. Her friend is nice enough, but honestly, we don't share much in common, and I could tell this would shift the dynamic of our planned trip. She explained that her friend was dealing with some family issues and really needed a break, which I understand. I'm all for being supportive and accommodating, but I found it strange that she didn't mention this before inviting her friend, as this would require us to change some of our plans. I voiced my concerns, and it felt like she got defensive, almost confronting me about it. Eventually, I suggested that maybe we should cancel the trip altogether, as having a third person there just wouldn't feel right for what was supposed to be a romantic getaway. She accused me of being selfish and insisted that having her friend join us wasn't a big deal. To make matters worse, she brought up how I've gone out with my friends without checking in on her, but I thought that was different since I wasn't on a trip that was meant to be a couple's thing, right? I offered that if we canceled, we could instead focus on helping her friend through her family struggles, trying to be considerate of both my girlfriend's feelings and her friend's needs. But all she saw was that I was trying to avoid a conversation I never knew was happening. I really don't want to come off as the bad guy, but I feel like my feelings aren't being taken seriously either. So, Aida for wanting to cancel this vacation since she invited someone without asking me first? Update 1. After my last post, I was overwhelmed by the responses I received. It felt reassuring to know that I wasn't the only one who found the situation troubling, and many commenters urged me to have a serious talk with my girlfriend. I decided it was time to address everything head-on, as it was clear that this issue could affect not only our trip, but also our relationship moving forward. I reached out to her, and we agreed to sit down together that evening after work. As we settled into our living room, the air was thick with tension, and I could sense that both of us were nervous about how the conversation would unfold. I took a deep breath and started by acknowledging how much I valued our relationship and how important this trip was meant to be for both of us. I shared my concerns about her inviting her friend without consulting me first and how it felt like I was suddenly on the back burner of our own vacation plans. She listened quietly, and I could see her processing my words. I wanted to convey that I understood her desire to help her friend, but I also needed her to understand that our plans had been important to me for a long time. After all, we had both been so busy at work, and I was looking forward to the chance to reconnect, away from our everyday stresses. When I finished speaking, my girlfriend took a moment to gather her thoughts before responding. She expressed her remorse for not consulting me beforehand, admitting that she had acted impulsively in inviting her friend along. She explained that she felt torn between wanting to support her friend, who was struggling with family issues, and ensuring our relationship remained a priority. I appreciated her honesty and could see how much the guilt weighed on her. We talked about how important it was to communicate openly and honestly, especially about things that impacted both of us. I reminded her that while I understood her intentions, it was also essential for her to consider how these decisions affected us as a couple. We agreed to come up with a compromise that allowed us to still have our time together while being there for her friend as well. After much back and forth, we decided that her friend could join us for the first part of the trip, but we would have to set some boundaries. I suggested that we could spend the first day together, but then drop her friend off at a nearby cafe for a few hours to give us a chance to reconnect without distractions. My girlfriend seemed relieved by this solution, and I felt a sense of hope that we were finding a way to work through this. The following day, we set off on our trip, and I couldn't shake off the feeling of apprehension that lingered in the back of my mind. The drive was filled with small talk and laughter, but I noticed my girlfriend constantly checking her phone. This made me uneasy, and I tried to push the nagging thought aside. When we finally picked up her friend, I put on my best smile, wanting to be supportive, but I felt a familiar discomfort creeping in as soon as we got into the car. The dynamic changed almost instantly. My girlfriend's focus shifted to her friend, who was talking animatedly about her life, leaving me feeling like an outsider in what was supposed to be our trip. That night, we settled into our accommodation, and I could feel the energy shift again. My girlfriend's friend, who was genuinely nice, was trying to include me in conversations, but it just felt awkward. I couldn't shake the feeling that our romantic getaway was becoming a group outing instead. As I lay in bed that night, I stared at the ceiling, reflecting on everything that had happened. I felt torn between wanting to be understanding of my girlfriend's desire to help her friend and my need for quality time together. I decided I needed to find a way to express my feelings again, hoping we could still salvage our trip before it spiraled completely out of control. Update 2. The following day, I knew we had to confront the situation again. After breakfast, I suggested we take a walk on the beach, hoping that the serene environment would create the right atmosphere for an honest conversation. The sun was shining, and the sound of the waves crashing against the shore provided a beautiful backdrop. Once we found a quiet spot away from the crowd, I took a deep breath and shared my feelings with her once again. I told her that while I appreciated her willingness to support her friend, I couldn't help but feel like our vacation had lost its intended purpose. I reminded her how much I had looked forward to spending quality time together, away from our hectic lives. To my surprise, my girlfriend seemed genuinely touched by my words. She opened up about her own feelings of guilt and conflict, admitting that she had been preoccupied with trying to be a good friend while also wanting to enjoy our trip together. She explained how torn she felt between her loyalty to her friend and her commitment to our relationship, and I could see how much this struggle weighed on her. We talked for a while longer, and I could sense a shift in the air. As we spoke, it became clear that we both valued our relationship and wanted to make it work. I suggested that we create a plan to ensure we could support her friend without sacrificing our time together. After some back and forth, we agreed that her friend could join us for part of the day, but we would also set aside specific times for just the two of us. When we returned to our accommodation, I felt a renewed sense of hope. My girlfriend seemed lighter, and I could tell that the conversation had alleviated some of the tension. We spent the rest of the day exploring the local area, and I made a conscious effort to engage with her friend, hoping it would help ease any lingering awkwardness. As we settled down for dinner that night, I could see my girlfriend was trying hard to balance both sides. She was attentive to her friend, but I could also tell she was making an effort to include me in conversations. After dinner, we found a quiet spot on the beach to watch the sunset, and it felt like a small victory. I had hoped that this moment would help solidify the connection we had been trying to build. The evening went well, filled with laughter and conversations that reminded me of why I fell in love with her in the first place. I felt grateful for the time we had spent together, even with the unexpected turns the trip had taken. As we returned to our accommodation, my girlfriend suggested that we have a private chat before bed. I felt a rush of excitement at the prospect of reconnecting. We sat on the balcony, and she shared her thoughts about the trip and her feelings toward her friend. She admitted that she had let her friend's issues overshadow our time together, but she was committed to working on it. We talked about our goals for the relationship moving forward, and it felt good to see the two of us aligning again. I expressed my desire for open communication, and she agreed. We promised to be more mindful of each other's needs, especially during moments like these. Update 3. The last day of our trip finally arrived, and I woke up feeling a mix of excitement and apprehension. I wanted this day to be special, a culmination of everything we had worked through during the vacation. We had planned a relaxing day at the beach, and I hoped we could truly enjoy each other's company without distractions. As we made our way to the beach, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The weather was perfect, and the ocean looked inviting. We spread out our towels, and I suggested we take a swim together, hoping to create more moments that would reinforce our bond. After swimming, we laid out on our towels, soaking in the sun. My girlfriend seemed more relaxed than she had been in days, and we started talking about everything from our future plans to lighthearted topics that made us both laugh. It felt like we were finally back on track, and I was grateful for the progress we had made. However, as the afternoon progressed, her friend started to seem more withdrawn. I noticed she was sitting a bit farther away, texting and looking upset. My girlfriend caught on to it as well and immediately went over to check on her. As I sat alone on the beach, I felt a wave of anxiety wash over me. Would we have to go back to the old dynamic? When my girlfriend returned, she looked concerned and shared that her friend had received some distressing news about her family. I understood her desire to be there for her friend, but I also felt a knot form in my stomach. We had come so far, and I didn't want to see everything unravel at the last moment. We sat down together, and I could see the worry on my girlfriend's face. She expressed how torn she felt between wanting to be there for her friend and wanting to enjoy the final moments of our trip. I could see the internal struggle within her, and I knew this was a critical moment for both of us. I reached out and held her hand, reassuring her that it was okay to support her friend while also making the most of our time together. We discussed how we could balance both priorities, reminding her that her friend would appreciate her support, but that we needed to prioritize our relationship too. Eventually, we came up with a plan to spend some quality time together while also checking in on her friend. I suggested we take turns being present, allowing my girlfriend to support her friend while also ensuring we had our moments together. It was a compromise that felt right, and I could see the relief in my girlfriend's eyes. As the day came to a close, we returned to our accommodation feeling accomplished. We had navigated through various challenges, and while it hadn't been the trip we initially envisioned, it became a journey of growth. I felt hopeful about our future together, knowing we had tackled some significant hurdles and come out stronger on the other side. As we packed up to leave, I couldn't help but smile at the memories we had created, and I was grateful that we had managed to find a balance. Our relationship felt renewed, and I knew this trip had been a turning point for us. As we drove home, I held my girlfriend's hand, and I was excited about what lay ahead for us.